So if you don't know who I am, I'm Ngesi, actor, comedian, TV presenter, producer. No, wait. I'm a multi-award-winning actor,
yes, correction.
comedian, TV presenter.
Correction.
Like ridiculous. I've won too many awards. I've worked too hard. And today I'm
the most talented person I know.
And humble. The most humble.
And the most humble I know.
As humble as a peacock.
Yeah.
So for me, today I actually wanted to call you here to do this interview because everyone is always asking about you to me. Anything you do wrong, I get messages screaming
what
at you.
wrong things have I done?
No matter what you do. Like, even like things that I used to get from the city, I don't get it anymore because you're my friend. They're like, no. And then the other day we were at the biscuit mill, we went to get sheephead, we sat there, we ate, and I just saw everyone was gravitating towards you, but I don't think they know you personally. So I want people to know you the way I know you. The father of three. Like, what's the age? Because there's a nice little gap between the kids, which I find it's always hilarious. What did I do the first time? Wait, you got to hear this. The first time Mmusi told me, I got a phone call from Mmusi going, "Where are you? Where are you now? Where are you now?" I said, "I'm at home. Come here now." Meet at the vineyard. He sits me down. I'm dieting at this moment, and Mmusi tells me that he has.
I'll tell you because it was one of the more traumatic moments. No, it wasn't traumatic. We have a 13-year-old girl. She just is about to start high school next year. You want to start to feel old. That's how you know. And I have an 11-year-old boy who's about to turn 12, and then just before
the
COVID,
lead actress, the boss,
we discovered that my wife was pregnant, and I think both of us were traumatized for a while because we thought we were done with children. And to indicate the closeness of our friendship, Siv was the only person I could call up and say, I need to process this with someone. So now that he's putting it on camera, now I know if I want to broadcast our family news, I'll talk to you again.
Then he says to me, and then what did I do? I just laughed.
Exactly. In the midst of my most traumatic moment, Siv decided that it was the funniest thing ever. But you've been an uncle to my kids, and my kids love you. I think they love you. Sometimes I wonder if they love you more than they do me. But
so you are a father of three, live a very conservative life. Kids go to school. You have three kids, different ages. For me, I'm seeing a lot of posters on lampposts, people trying to sell their story. But for me, what as a father do you think you can bring to the future of South Africa?
Yeah.
And your kids are there.
Look, it's important that as a parent, the one thing you want is that your kids have a better life than you would have had. That's certainly the dream for my mother from the Eastern Cape and father from the Northwest who wanted for their kids having grown up in apartheid. And I would want a life that is better than my own for my kids. We happen to be a mixed race family, so in many ways, I want for my kids to use a quote, to be judged by the content of their character. And I actually want for them to live in a country where, when I think about both girls and my boy, to live in an economy that keeps them participants of that economy, that they can maximize their opportunities. And in many ways, when I think about my daughter, man, I'm certain that she's not going to be quick to get a driver's license, but I'd want her to be safe in an Uber and to be safe in our country. I want her to know that as much as they right now have an education that is in quintile 5, but that they'd be able to be able to maximize that and live and contribute in this country. Because I think one of the more difficult things is that I'm watching parents with some means watch their kids leave this country, and I'm watching parents without means or limited means end up with children who become unemployed with them at home. And surely that's not a country we want to build in. So for me, having grown up in Soweto, now live in different communities, I want for my kids to know that this country is a safe place for them. They can be educated and they themselves can prosper in this country. And that's what I'm working towards. And like I say, because I'm so conscious of the fact that they come from different races, I really want to build this one South Africa, because the last place I need for them is to be judged by anything other than the content of their character.
Okay, moving from family.
Yeah.
Many people don't even know you're not part of DA anymore. How long have you been out of DA? How long has it been?
I mean, I'm not wearing blue.
So how long has it been?
It's now been, I left India on the 24th of October in 2019. So we head towards 5 years since I left the DA. So it's just an entire child's high school career since I last was in the DA. And more than anything, many people always ask me, why did you leave? And I often like to say to people, I had a vision for...
You left, you weren't kicked out. He wasn't kicked out. I keep on telling you, they didn't kick him out. He left. Yeah, he left.
We wanted to build a party where truly all South Africans can be in the party. I must be honest with you, it's the one thing that I've been consistent over. I wanted a caucus that's diverse. I wanted a party that could potentially govern the rest of the country. And I wanted a party that was honest about injustice. And on all of those things, it became harder and harder to convince the few who felt that the DA was their own birthright. It's a place that they should live in forever. It's the same as when they currently now say no one can campaign in the Western Cape because this is our part of the country and therefore we will govern it until forever. It's that sort of arrogant birthrightism that sometimes you have to fight with, where at times you end up in a space where when you diversify the caucus, there are some people who are like, actually no, we must keep the caucus as white males only kind of thing. Or they start to influence the ecosystem of the organization, whether it's donors or whatever, or make your life completely difficult. And so eventually you arrive at a point where you say, because I would lay my life down for the most important thing, which is to build a movement for all South Africans, a multiracial one, I would rather leave and farm it out elsewhere. And so when we left to go build One South Africa truly, is because I wanted to build a party that reflects the peoples of this country, wherever they come from, whatever God they may worship, and wherever background they may stand from.
So were you naive enough to think that you could change it internally?
Yeah, like anything else, I went in there genuinely believing that it was possible. And I still would hope that the DA will come around to surrendering this idea of what they class as color blindness, which is in fact a clever way of ignoring injustice at time, or as others would say, it being race blind or racism blind, is that I would hope that they would come around to recognize that the project of building parties just for particular races or minorities is dangerous for this country. Because then in that case, you are waiting for the domination of another race. Maybe you are waiting for the Zulus to be strong enough to dominate everybody. Or you're waiting for the Xhosas to do that. Like you've gone with Afrikaner nationalism, you get African nationalism, you can get Zulu nationalism, and so we keep going. Or religious nationalism. All of these things are cycles of a very dangerous thing. So I'm hoping that the DA will recognize that this is not strategically the right thing to do for this country. And it's sad that we're living in a country today where the government is struggling, but so is the official opposition. It tells you the disservice that's been done there. So I went in there genuinely, adamantly believing, and for a long time, we were beginning to succeed. We were succeeding when I think about in 2016, we could govern the metros. And actually, when I think about the 4 metros that we were governing, which dictated the majority of local government budget, which was Joburg, Tshwane, Cape Town, and Gqeberha, you had a white male, black male, colored female. You could build the diversity. And somewhat that became offensive to certain people. The ambition to want to govern outside the Western Cape was something that others challenged us on, to a point where it became even harder and harder to show people that we could govern Joburg and make it well. They thought it wasn't the Joburg that governs for their constituency. It was a Joburg that governed for people who were left out. And so you don't have a choice. In that instance, Siv, I'd rather die by my principles than live under that space, and that's why I needed to go.
Okay. What mistakes can you say that you made during that DA time?
I allowed particular people sometimes free rein when I should have actually clamped it in quickly. I think that we had continuous fights about some of even the tweets that people like Helen Zille were putting forward. And I don't think as a leader I was quick enough to want to stamp this thing out, even though we worked through it. But I became tolerant where people felt that at times they could express views that were clearly damaging to the organization. I'm a Democrat. I want for people to be able to speak out. But when you express views that are harmful to the organization, this is not good. So yeah, I made some mistakes. I made mistakes in that regard, but leadership is that. Leaders make mistakes, as long as it's not the only thing that they do. You've got to say to yourself, there were certain things that we managed to get right in going forward. And I'm grateful in some ways for the privilege of having served in that role, but I'm even more grateful for the role I play now in society.
Okay, for me, Mmusi, what I've realized, my best friend as well, we're the biggest. I need to add that this is a very biased interview. I'm not here to. I'm very one-sided. This is my brother. I would kill a bull for him, and I love him to bits. It's a very biased interview. But what I've realized is that the Mmusi that we know, the time at the DA has definitely affected how black people see you.
Yeah.
Right? Definitely has definitely. It's something that I continuously work at every single day for them to see you as a person. How do you feel, because we have this conversation all the time, how do you feel about how black people see you? Because when I see black people see you at the biscuit mill, they eat out of your hand like putty. It's ridiculous. They love you. But then online, it's like it's not fashionable to like Mmusi. Right?
I think, sometimes I think to myself, let me tell you this, maybe as a parallel. When I go to gym and I get a fitness instructor.
He gyms.
Yes, can you see? Yeah.
My friend gyms. He's a great boxer as well.
Yeah. So if I meet my trainer there are things I ascribe to my trainer. I think this is a person who lives well, lives healthily, eats fruit, does when they want
Woolworths.
Yeah, Woolworths fruit. If they want to go on an adventure, they have orange juice.
Yeah.
That's my trainer.
No ice. No ice.
No ice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I think when I think about my gym person. And then when I sometimes go via the exit doors at the gym and then I bump into my trainer smoking, I'm like, Jimma, you are letting us down.
It's like a thin chef. You can't trust a thin chef.
You know what I mean? You are like, guy, you've let the team down here. And I think when you are in the DA, people put a jacket around you. They say, this guy has never seen the township. I even see some comments online where people say, the DA wanted you so white that they even gave you a white wife. And then
they don't know that white wife is the feistiest Xhosa white woman you will ever come across, who you do not want to meet in an alley because you will lose. You will lose in a debate or anything else.
They
have no idea this woman. They don't know.
They know the fear.
They don't understand. That's just Xhosa and Zulu combined.
I think now people have ascribed all of these things to me. They've put all of these things to me. And then I feel like I've had to rebuild a relationship that then says, actually, no, don't get yourself twisted, man. I grew up in the township in Dobsonville. I grew up to a mother who was a cashier who's still permanently building a house today.
Black parents are always building and we're always paying.
Who could never still...
Mmusi sometimes calls me and goes, she's building again.
Every time I come home, she's building. So that was my upbringing. Just because at the same time as that I was able to get an education that puts in the 1.5 space, you do X-Model C schools, you do a university degree, you try and do your best. Sometimes I think we want to be able to locate black people just within a particular context and frame that, a bit like the National Party did exactly the same thing. Anyone who opposed the National Party was seen as a sellout. And I think sometimes you also get the militant ANC person who says the ANC is the only one for blacks. And therefore any black who leaves that must be a sellout. So there's all of those branding issues. But I'm grateful that I've been able to rebuild the relationship with South Africans. And I think over a long period of time there, we will be able to see for each other that actually, wait, this guy loves this country more than anything, honestly. And that whilst I, in part, can fully appreciate what life is like in the township, I've had the privilege of knowing what life is like in the boardroom. And what you don't want to do is be the kind of person who says, this experience that was here, I'm going to deny. I'm not going to deny my experience inside the DA. I'm not going to deny the life experiences I've had. They shape who I am. And what I am is what I bring to the country. There's going to be a black South African who says, this guy doesn't talk like me, doesn't look like me. Hey, man, there's nothing I can do about that. And there's another white South African who's sitting out there going, this guy's just another darkie with an accent, wada, wada, wada. Hey, man, that's not my vibe.
Just vote for him.
I'm going to build with South Africans who genuinely understand both, that it's not either or, it's not black versus white. It's black and white, it's rich and poor, it's colored and Indian. It's all of the ands. And that's what the beauty of this country is.
But Chomi, I can't understand how people who call people coconuts, Oreos, all these crazy negative things can't realize how that is the construct of apartheid as well for us to hate each other. Internally continuously hate each other. I don't understand the wokest of the woke trying to put down other black people who are like, we're the only people who can call each other clever, and that's a negative.
Insulting.
That's insulting. What?
No, I mean, it's one of the things I've never understood. You will never bump into white people who try and challenge your whiteness in that sense. They don't have a grading of saying, this one is pure white, you are mediocre.
I'm whiter than you. I speak English better than you.
No one's ever going to do that,
right? Have you ever seen a white person go, I'm whiter than you?
No one's
going to do that. My goodness, I wish he was whiter.
You know what I mean?
Oh my God, he's so smart. He's such a clever. He's only blacks.
It's only
ridiculous.
We are the only ones who've created, as an outcome of apartheid, and I agree with you, a sort of grading thing that then eventually says you can lose your blackness. How's that?
Like, imagine, just because I can swim, I'm less black.
Or I eat fish, or whatever the case might be. And some of those things actually make black South Africans exiled from themselves. I mean, a good example is swimming. Often, I often say, black, we jokingly say, but black people can't swim. And then you hear someone say, who do you think when those oaks were getting off the ships was helping them? Who do you think? Who do you think was farming before any of this? Who do you think? This land has always had people of color in it who were swimmers, farmers, agriculturalists, developers, all of that. And I think there's a part of that plays into the broader narrative that development can only be westernization. And when you play into that narrative, it becomes a very dangerous school of thought because you subconsciously endorse things like colonialism.
I always go, if we loved swimming more, we'd be eating more duck than chicken, because duck is so much better than chicken.
Well, I only shop at Woolworths and I can't afford the duck. I don't know,
I'm a duck guy.
You're a duck guy? I'm a duck guy. Even when I go to Woolworths, I can't afford the duck.
Yeah, I'm a duck guy. Okay, Mmusi, now some personal things that I am very, very passionate about. Period poverty. I've heard no political party say anything about period poverty. It's absolutely ridiculous how 21 million women bleed in this country. 8 million of those women cannot afford sanitary pads, and then 4 of those million go to school and university, and no one is talking about period poverty. Now, you're my brother, you're very close to me, we have this conversation all the time. You have a 13-year-old girl and you have another little girl. So you'll be, in your house will be, you're involved.
The fear of my life.
You're involved, and we've had this conversation.
Yeah.
Period poverty. I repeat, 22.5 million women bleed in this country, right? 22.5. 8 million of those cannot afford sanitary pads, and 4 of those of the 8 are in school and university. Now, we talk about food, we talk about water, but you cannot educate a hungry child, and you cannot educate a child who has blood running down her leg. It's an indignity, it is disgusting, and it needs to be fixed. And it's not a woman's problem, it's a humanity problem. Without menstruation, there is no humanity. As a brother of mine,
and I mean,
how are we talking about period poverty? Because I've seen no political party, and you have female deputies as well. A female deputy. You have what are we going to do about period poverty? This is a personal gripe.
Listen, and I've been grateful from the Menstruation Foundation for being able to supply sanitary pads when we've gone to communities to go hand those out. So my opening statement is this: the first time a young woman experiences violence is when she will have no sanitary towels during her time of the month. I'm not denying the fact that these things can happen before as a child. I'm not denying any of that. I'm just simply saying the first psychological violence occurs at that point. And I think we set up the enslavement of women from that point. So it isn't just the provision of sanitary towels. it is the restoration of dignity
Amen.
and the exercise of choice. It isn't just because what you do to that child is you're saying to them, stay at home for a week or use cow dung whilst the economy continues or while schooling continues.
You're not worth it. You're not worth 5 rand. You're not worth 10 rand.
Absolutely. You are saying to that child that if you want dignity back, best you go trade off other things against your dignity. You are, in essence, if we, I always link period poverty with a broader conversation even about violence against women, because I do think it's violent against women. Therefore, I am fearful. I'll be honest with you, as a father of a young girl, I am worried what that moment will mean for her in a society that we live in. And I'm grateful that she's got a mother who's at home, will look after her, and I will do my bit as best as I can. But I want that for every girl in this country. So as a basic rule, we shouldn't commercialize this issue from the sense of when we make pink tax, as it were. The cost of sanitary towels is extraordinary in this country, and it's monopolized by a few entities. I think the work that you guys are doing by putting manufacturing dispensaries in schools is profound, and it's absolutely important in that it lowers the cost. It also restores dignity in the same way as if anyone wants to go, I don't understand why we put condom machines in bathrooms and anyone can go buy them without anyone questioning. Why can't we make tokenization and make it easier for a young girl to just put a token and be able to get sanitary towels, make it easy?
Do you know why condoms are free? Because condoms don't help one person, they help 2 people. Now,
pads help the whole village.
Yes, but sanitary pads, they're seen as a woman thing.
No.
You know what I mean? Which is an absolute disgusting injustice, which needs to be fixed. But condoms are seen as something that people love to do, 2 people love to do. It helps 2 people, STDs and pregnancies. So they can see that it helps 2 people, man and woman, compared to sanitary pads.
No, I think we must be better at saying the plight of women in this country. I mean, you know, when you go into high LSMs, and I'm never going to be an expert on this because I'm a man, so there are certain limitations to my knowledge of all of this. But equally so, when I go to communities like in the Northern Cape, etc., really, I think the broader issue in this country is the enslavement of women. I just can't help but feel that for too many women in this country, they led into spaces that they become dependent on men. They led into economic circumstances where they cannot participate. And we reduce the agency and the choice of women to a point where I just really think that as a country, if we're going to heal our nation, we have to develop better relations with women, ensure that we uphold femininity. You know, for me, for my girls, it would be a low ambition of them to say, I want you to be equal to men. I actually want them to give expression to their own femininity in a way that honors it.
Yeah, your oldest daughter does look at me sometimes like you're right. Like she looks at me like I am.
She looks at me like
she looks at me like sometimes like who is this guy? How is he my
come
uncle?
on, guys,
How is this one of the closest people to my dad?
Come on, guys.
Like looks at me like up and down when we're laughing, like we're the problem. So Mmusi, another thing that people don't realize, that young ladies are missing up to 4 days of school every single month, right?
Yeah.
Times that by 12, times that by 5. And then when she's not passing matric, you're wondering, why? What happened? You're like, no, she was missing 4 days or 5 days of schools per month. Another thing that people don't realize, when she's walking around at home in her nightie, which in townships you see continuously, she's open to rape, she's open to child trafficking, huge. So the connection between period poverty and human trafficking, rape, they're so connected, they're interconnected. But the government is looking at numbers of 22.5 million, and they're like, oh, we can't afford that. But we're saying, no. Not every woman cannot not afford sanitary pads. So what we should be going for is the 4 million who are at school and university. They should be getting free sanitary pads. And as a government, we can afford that.
Well, I think let's cut a deal here. Laws are laws, right? Like you cannot exclude someone from their access to a basic right of education. It's a human right, it's a human dignity issue. So a government that fails to provide sanitary towels is a government in violation of human rights.
Hallelujah.
And I think it should be charged on that way, and you can be assured going into Parliament, that's got to be the first fight we pick. Because when we talk about it as sanitary towels, you almost talk about it commercially. But actually, when you look at the ecosystem, it's a bit like load shedding, right? We can say, load shedding this. But what load shedding does is that it limits access to particular rights. You can't go to school.
Safety?
Safety. You can't be safe. You can't go. When a child dies in hospital because the incubator stopped working, because the lights went off, that is a violation of a human right. We must treat the conversation about sanitary towels in the same way, because I do agree with you. When your dignity is robbed and someone takes advantage of that, you do realize that you force the oppression of women over a long period of time. And I refuse to live in a country like that. It's certainly something I wouldn't accept for my girls. I don't think anyone should accept it.
Show me. Listen here. Another side of elections that people don't realize, and I've only learned about it by speaking to you and having you as my friend. Finances. Let's talk about finances of elections. How does it work? How much money is the ANC spending? If you had limitless funds, you once told me about how much a vote counts. You once told me about how much a vote costs.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how much money is spent if you had people, because I know I have a lot of friends. We have a few weeks till the end. Someone could just send your e-wallet of $1 million just now.
I know them.
We know these people. You know you're listening. Can you explain to people the finances of elections? Because I don't think they realize how much money it takes to put up one poster on that lamppost. Yeah. Or to even have Ngesi sitting in the room with you.
I know.
Imagine how expensive that would be if I wasn't your friend.
Tease. My tuna. Tease.
Fetch your child from soccer, go watch netball. Now I'm here doing a free
This is what they call black tax.
Freaky, this is black tax here. Okay. Let's talk about the finances of elections.
It's 55 Rand to mount a poster.
55 Rand.
And the ANC in this election will put up just over 1 million posters. So before you've even entered the game, it's 55 million Rand. And you've got to match them pound for pound, right? Like you've got to match them on poster game. A rally at a minimum cost is close between 15 to 18 million Rand. So all of these parties that are putting up multiple rallies of like tens of thousands of people, they are spending, it's like having a concert for free, literally. All of that, t-shirt distributions, television adverts. I think to be competitive as a political entity in this country, you must at least start at 50 million and work your way up. And the unfortunate thing about politics is that it's often the golden rule. He who has the gold often rules. Because that's what happens if you plow money into the system. To fix for it, of course, I've always said, create a constituency-based model, because then you are competing in a more smaller space and you can spend money in a smaller space. Just having national in that sense means that you have Cyril's posters everywhere, you have Mmusi's posters everywhere, whatever the case might be, just becomes a national conversation that loses the fact that mostly politics is local. Politics is about what is happening in my street, my school, my hospital, that's how voters view it. That's why even when I chose candidates, I wanted candidates that come from their community so that they can represent their communities. Now, it's hard, and I want to say to South Africans, I'm grateful for the people who give money. There's a Twitter conversation that's going, and I want to address this right now. Because people say BOSA is a project of the Oppenheimers, or this one or that one. Or
there's this one guy who absolutely detests you. He detests you. The guy with the tattoos. What's his name? Whatever his name is. But he's always on your case, Choms. Yeah. He's always on your case.
Yeah, no. And you know, to tell you the truth is, firstly, we mustn't assume every donor is a Gupta. I've never met donors who've come to me and said, you'll push this agenda if you want this money. Actually, most people fund because they want democracy. And actually, most people with that kind of money are generally capitalists. And I can tell you, they fund across multiple parties. So they don't fund, they fund multiple players. I can tell you, I've met donors who fund both the ANC, the DA, they fund us. They do it all. You can't sit here and those people are advancing a particular ideology. What I do want to say, though, is, of course, when I spoke about transparency, all of these issues are put forward to the public and you can check it. But I think we mustn't demonize people who fund political parties. You know, Siv, given the conversation we've just had about how much it costs, think carefully about the fact that what if those people weren't willing to be attacked online and be called names funding the opposition? Because I can tell you this, and I don't want to call out people, but I've met enough business people who have succeeded who won't give you a rand because they sometimes get contracts from the government or whatever, and so they don't fund you. So you become stuck. The only people who get funded in the multi-party democracy fund, which is adjudicated in parliament, are the parties in parliament, and it's allocated proportionally, which means the ANC gets the lion's chunk of that money, which means anyone else in opposition is at a war. It's at a war against money. So I want to say this, I think rather than demonizing people, let's not link firstly their funding to policy. Let's also recognize the fact that it's important for democracy that people fund the opposition and be willing to come out, because I promise you life would be impossible without them.
Chums, if I had a person, I've been boxing for 12 years now, and if I had a person walk in who cannot punch, who has got no gear, who's terrible at their job of boxing, and I go into the ring with them, you would think I would win. You guys are up against the ANC, who is so incompetent, it's scary. And the opposition looks like they're just scoring on goals every corner you turn. Like, do you guys not have a WhatsApp group of oppositions talking, going, let's just behave. Just for this month, no kak must happen. Because, guys, it's who's the guy, what did the guy say to you once? Some guy said to you about beating the ANC.
Yeah, if you can't beat the ANC in the state they're in, you must reconsider your career, let alone your...
Is there no conversation with the oppositions, man? Like, cannot they behave?
There is, and not that kind of conversation. It's a conversation that says, how do we work together after the elections? How do we form a government that can unseat the ANC? And how do we bring parties who agree together? That conversation is being had. I do, though, want to say, and I didn't want to set this up as a place to dog out anyone, but it's tragic that the government is struggling and so is the official opposition.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense, right? Like, how does the government fail and the official opposition? Which tells you that this conversation is about the dying old and the emerging new. It's the best way to view this discussion, because the dying old is about anyone with old ideas and the dinosaurs and the ANC, and in some ways the DAs too sit in that party, in that world. They are busy dying, and that's why they can't come up with ideas about the future. And the emerging new is still new, young, and needs to be funded. But I'm more optimistic about the future now than I would have been before, because the ultimate thing you don't want to do in this country is to have all the old governing, because all the old have their values shaped under apartheid in the main. And so they still view the world in that way. What we need is like new young, because you view the world in a new South African way and you want to answer questions. I mean, what can Cyril tell me about ChatGPT? Honestly, he should be playing with his grandchildren, right?
He's saying kaka, 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 kaka.
He should be knitting somewhere. And so when you talk about AI and generative intelligence of that nature, artificial intelligence, we've got to think about the world in a different way. So I'm more bullish about, so what this election actually is about. Vote for the new. The old will come and go. If you are buying a South African company, you would look at its management and think about what its future is. The only question, and I'm going to say this, the only question South Africans have is, who do they want manage in this country, me or Julius? That's the only debate. Because the top 5 leaders in this country, I'm going to tell you the top 5 leaders on favorability point of view is, it's Cyril, Jacob Zuma, Julius, me, or Zille. Come on, pick what you want. It's going to be between Julius and I. Let's make some sensible decisions.
So for me, I'm about, if you had R1 million, who would you trust with your R1 million between the 5 you just mentioned? Full stop. Okay, Shams, I don't want to talk too long. For me, here's another thing, Shams. I know you personally. I know we talk every single day. We laugh every single day. But why should someone vote for you, Shams? Leave the politics out of it. Leave the political nonsense, the posters, all of that stuff. Why should someone vote for Mmusi Maimane, who, in their eyes, failed in the DA, who's official opposition, right? Had the second amount of money before, right? Which is the DA, right? Had this incredible machine that was pushing him. And in their eyes, they think you got kicked out, but you weren't. You stepped down. But let's put it in the most non-political words possible about why someone should vote for you. And I can tell you, being at the biscuit mill, I can tell you we got at least 10 votes, and we were there for 45 minutes. Just us walking around You got at least 10 votes from people who saw you there.
Because Chomi, I've been in the ring. Politics isn't always about just... I've been in the ring. I've seen what it's like to achieve things in politics. Because Chomi, no one, I can assure you, wants to see the prosperity of all races in a way that I deeply wake up thinking about in this country. I'll tell you, Chomi, I've learned experience in both parliament. You and I have invested in a number of businesses and we are involved in business. I've also been involved in academia to a point now where I'm just about to complete a PhD. So that I can be, at least we don't have Dr. Kumalo.
Choms, you know Dr. Kumalo, you know Dr. Malinga.
Yeah, Dr. Malinga.
Choms, I have a doctorate in gap years. I have a doctorate in gap years. It's my 20th year of doing nothing.
Exactly. So with all of that cumulative experience of both success and failure, academia, culture, religious structure, parliament, business, I think I bring a set of skills in this country that I believe will serve this country's transition and future well. And I think it's such a low bar to say, but I've never stolen anyone's money in a universe where I'm competing with leaders who have looted money. So what, in that space, in that context, I'm asking for South Africans not to believe any leader is going to arrive perfect for the job. No one is. Neither am I. But I know that there's no leader currently at the moment who's going to outwork me in the service for what we want to do for this country. I can promise you that.
And if you make me Minister of Arts and Culture, it will be deserved. Thank you.
Totally. No. It won't be patronage. It won't be patronage or nepotism.
It'll be deserved.
It'll be just on what you bring to the game. Bring Savannah to the game and then we're in.
So Mmusi, one more thing. You've always given me this very simple equation of how we can beat the ANC. It's you gave me the number of votes, what needs to be done for... How simple is it?
For ease of numbers, if there are 30 million South Africans who are eligible to vote, the number is roundabout right. Many of those will not turn out. So at 15 million, about half of those will vote for the ANC and about another half will vote for the opposition, which means actually at 2 million votes, we win this country. You can control what happens.
Explain that.
So what I'm saying to people, all votes count in this election. Don't listen to anyone who tells you they are wasted votes. That's absolute hogwash. All votes count. They form part of the proportional part. It's like a pizza. So every slice of the pizza matters. The slice that's most important now is 2 million votes. 1 million who are done with the ANC, 1 million who are new and are coming into the thing. We put those together and we vote for BOSA. 2 million, you dictate, you get as many seats, you get just over, at 2 million you get over 40 seats in parliament, at least more than that. And further than that, you are able to hold the grand opposition together to bring about change. So it's not a lot. I'm asking for 2 million votes, people. Go out and tell your friends, your cousins, your mothers, your anybody, your friends, whatever. Let's go vote.
So what I'm about to say, Mmusi didn't say, but go to your grandparents and steal their ID just for one day. Just for one day. Just put it somewhere they can't find it. Something very high or somewhere very low. Because we know the Ghanaians, they like to vote for the ants. The ants.
The ancestors.
The ancestors. My brother, it's a pleasure.
Always,
I trust no one more than I trust you. I don't know if I told you this, but I'll be overseas during the election, so I'll be driving to Lesotho. I'm registered in Lesotho. I'll be voting in Lesotho, driving in and driving out, because I need to put my name next to Build One South Africa with Mmusi Maimane. It's a pleasure and a privilege. On a personal note, when my mother passed away, he was my second call. He was my second call. My first one was my best friend. He was my second call. And he was on just landing in South Africa, in
Joburg.
Joburg, yeah, it's South Africa. They say Cape Town.
Cape Town is not South Africa.
Yeah. Yes. And he was my second phone call. And I remember him wanting to turn around to come back to Cape Town to be there for me. And obviously it was the last flight. And he actually emceed the funeral of my mother. My mother was a big fan. So for me, brother, my mother would be so absolutely proud in supporting you 150%. And yeah, vote BOSA.
We are blood and
this
family.
This is a very biased interview. Very biased. Thanks, brother, man.
Ah.